What if your own lack of common sense was actually a winning lottery ticket? In the twilight zone of the legal system, people are turning their most embarrassing mistakes into massive, life-changing fortunes. Today, we reveal 50 of the most ridiculous lawsuits where individuals sued over absolute nonsense and somehow convinced a jury to pay them millions. Forget working hard. Apparently, the real secret to wealth is a terrible decision combined with a very creative lawyer. 1. In 1998, a man named Terrence Dixon finished robbing a house in Pennsylvania and tried to leave through the garage. Unfortunately for him, the automatic door was broken, and the door leading back into the house had locked behind him. He was trapped for 8 days, surviving on a diet of dry dog food and a crate of Pepsi he found in the corner. Most people would call that a well-deserved timeout, but Terrence called a lawyer. He sued the homeowner's insurance for the mental anguish caused by his confinement, and against all logic, a jury awarded him $500,000. Does this make you want to upgrade your home security or just stop paying for home insurance altogether? 2. Carol Walton was trying to avoid paying the $3.50 cover charge at a nightclub in Delaware, so she decided to sneak in through a bathroom window. During her acrobatic entrance, she fell and knocked out her 2 front teeth. Most people would take that as a sign to just pay the entry fee next time, but Kara sued the club. She argued that the window shouldn't have been easy to fall out of, and the court actually awarded her $12,000 plus her dental expenses. She successfully turned a $3 debt into a 5-figure payday by being a terrible cat burglar. 3. In a twist that sounds like a glitch in the simulation, Barbara Bagley from Utah sued herself and won. After a tragic car accident where she was the driver and her husband was the passenger, her husband passed away. As the personal representative of his estate, she sued herself for negligence to force her own insurance company to pay out a wrongful death settlement. The Utah Supreme Court actually allowed the case to proceed, effectively letting her argue in court that she was a terrible driver so she could collect her own insurance money. It turns out you really can be your own worst enemy and still get a check for it. 4. Most of us understand that slogans are just marketing fluff, but a group of consumers took Red Bull quite literally. They filed a class action lawsuit claiming the energy drink didn't actually give you wings and failed to improve their physical or mental performance as promised. Instead of fighting it in court for a decade, Red Bull decided to settle for $13 million. This meant anyone who had bought a can over a 10-year period could claim $10 or 2 free cans of Red Bull. It is a legendary example of how being pedantic about a metaphor can turn into a massive corporate headache and a very small payday for the rest of us. 5. We all remember the great Subway scandal of 2013, when an Australian teenager posted a photo of his foot-long sandwich next to a tape measure, proving it was only 11 inches. The internet went into a frenzy, leading to a massive class action lawsuit alleging deceptive practices. Subway eventually settled, agreeing to pay over $500,000 in legal fees and ensuring that every sandwich would be a full 12 inches moving forward. It is the ultimate proof that for some people, that missing inch is worth more than the actual sandwich. If you found out your favorite snack was 10% smaller than advertised, would you call a lawyer or just eat too? 6. Most people would be thrilled to look like a world-famous athlete, but for Alan Heckard, looking like Michael Jordan was a nightmare worth $800 million. He sued both Jordan and Nike, claiming the constant comparisons caused him permanent emotional injury and defamation of character. While the case was eventually dropped, it stayed in the system long enough to make everyone wonder about the legal price of a face. Imagine being so offended by your own reflection that you demand a billionaire pay for the privilege of you seeing it in the mirror every morning. 7. An Israeli woman once sued a TV station because the weather reporter predicted a beautiful sunny day, but it actually rained. She claimed the bad forecast caused her to dress lightly, which led to her catching the flu, missing a week of work, and spending a small fortune on medication. The craziest part of this story isn't the claim, it's that she won. The station had to pay her about $1,000 in damages. Apparently, acts of God don't count as a legal defense if the guy on Channel 4 didn't see the clouds coming. 8. A man in Iowa was using a ladder on a farm when it slipped, causing him a variety of injuries. The reason it slipped? He had placed the ladder on a pile of frozen manure. Naturally, he sued the ladder manufacturer, claiming they were negligent because they failed to include a warning label stating that ladders might be unstable when placed on frozen poop. A jury actually agreed that the lack of a "don't put this on frozen dung" sticker was a fatal design flaw and awarded him over $300,000. Honestly, if we need labels for that, how has the human race survived this long? 9. In one of the most famous cases of accidental wealth, a woman in a furniture store tripped over a toddler who was running wild through the aisles. She broke her ankle and sued the store for a staggering $80,000. The twist? The toddler she tripped over was actually her own son. Despite the fact that she was technically responsible for the hazard that caused her fall, the jury decided the store should have done more to prevent children from running around. She walked away with the money, presumably to pay for a very expensive babysitter. 10. A woman once sued an amusement park after a roller coaster ride caused her what she described as physical and emotional trauma. Her specific grievance? The G-forces were so intense that her bra strap snapped, leading to an embarrassing situation and subsequent mental anguish. She didn't just get an apology and a free t-shirt from the gift shop. She secured a settlement that would buy a lifetime supply of high-quality undergarments. It raises a serious question. Is there any minor inconvenience in life that couldn't be turned into a winning legal strategy if you find the right jury? 11. A man in Florida sued a theme park after he claimed a character performer hugged him too hard. He alleged that the person in the costume squeezed him with such enthusiasm that it aggravated a pre-existing back condition he hadn't mentioned to anyone. He sought thousands in damages for unsolicited physical contact and the resulting medical costs. The park settled out of court to avoid the bad press of a famous mascot being accused of aggressive affection. If a hug from a giant mouse is a legal hazard, is there any safe way to experience joy in public anymore? 12. A construction company in California once sued the Yellow Pages because their advertisement listed them as experts in terrazzo instead of terrazzo and tile. While it sounds like a minor typo, the company claimed the omission of that single word cost them millions in potential contracts. Most of us would just ask for a refund on the ad, but they went for the jugular. They didn't just win a refund, they walked away with a massive settlement that dwarfed the actual cost of the advertisement. It is a stark reminder that in the legal world, a single misplaced word can be worth more than a decade of actual hard labor. 13. Cleanthy Peters was visiting Universal Studios in Florida when she entered the Halloween Horror Nights haunted house. As the name suggests, the point of the attraction is to be terrified. However, Peters claimed she was so scared by a chainsaw-wielding actor that she tripped, fell, and suffered extreme emotional distress. She sued Universal for $15,000, arguing the attraction was too scary and the floors were a hazard. Universal eventually settled the case to avoid a PR nightmare. It's hard to imagine a world where you can buy a ticket for a fright and then sue the venue for actually delivering it. 14. A woman in Tennessee named Veronica Martin once sued McDonald's for something far weirder than hot coffee. She claimed that a hot pickle fell out of her burger and landed on her chin, causing a second-degree burn. She sought $110,000 in damages for the physical injury and the permanent scarring she alleged the pickle caused. While it sounds like a joke, the case actually made it to a settlement. Apparently, the secret ingredient in the Big Mac isn't just the sauce. It's the high-velocity molten core pickles that are weaponized against unsuspecting diners. 15. In a case that defies all moral logic, a convicted kidnapper named Jesse Dimmick sued his hostages for breach of contract. While on the run from the police, Dimmick broke into a couple's home and held them at knife point. He claimed that he and the couple reached an oral agreement that they would hide him from the cops in exchange for an unspecified amount of money. When the couple escaped while he fell asleep, Dimmick argued they broke their end of the deal. He actually won a legal hearing allowing the case to move forward before it was eventually dismissed. If a criminal tries to negotiate a contract with you at knife point, do you think that counts as a binding agreement, or is the legal system just bored? 16. A woman in California was driving her car while significantly over the legal alcohol limit. She ended up crashing into a telephone pole, causing her severe injuries. Instead of taking responsibility for her choice to drink and drive, she sued the city and the telephone company. Her argument? The telephone pole was too close to the road and was positioned in a way that made it an unavoidable hazard for someone who happened to be veering off the pavement. Astoundingly, she won a settlement worth millions. It turns out that in some courtrooms, the pole's location is a bigger crime than driving while intoxicated. 17. In 1991, Richard Overton sued Anheuser-Busch for false advertising because, despite drinking plenty of Bud Light, he didn't find himself surrounded by beautiful women on a tropical beach, as the commercial suggested. He claimed the ads caused him emotional distress, mental injury, and financial loss. While the judge eventually dismissed the case, Overton's legal team managed to keep the pressure on long enough that it became a cautionary tale for the beverage industry. It's the ultimate main character energy move. Suing a multi-billion-dollar corporation because your life isn't a 30-second TV spot. 18. In 2001, a Hooters waitress named Jody Berry participated in a sales contest where the top prize was promised to be a brand new Toyota. She worked her tail off, outselling every other server in the restaurant, only to be led to the parking lot blindfolded and presented with a toy Yoda. It was a plastic Star Wars action figure. Her manager thought it was a hilarious pun, but Jody didn't find the joke very funny when she realized she wasn't driving home in a new car. She sued the restaurant for breach of contract and fraudulent misrepresentation. To the surprise of absolutely no one except her boss, she won a settlement that was more than enough to go to a local dealership and buy any actual Toyota she wanted. It is a classic reminder that "it was just a prank" is not a valid legal defense when there's a five-figure vehicle on the line. 19. Lauren Rosenberg decided to follow Google Maps directions while walking in Utah, which led her onto a busy four-lane highway with no sidewalks. Instead of using her eyes to see the speeding cars and realizing it was a bad idea, she walked right into traffic and got hit by a vehicle. She then sued Google for over $100,000, claiming their maps provided unsafe directions. The case actually survived initial dismissal motions, with the court arguing that Google might have a duty to warn pedestrians about highway traffic. If your phone told you to walk off a pier, would you do it and then sue the manufacturer for not making the phone waterproof? 20. Amber Carson was having a heated argument with her boyfriend at a restaurant in Pennsylvania when things turned messy. In a fit of rage, she threw her drink at him, but as she tried to storm away in a dramatic exit, she slipped on the very puddle she had just created and broke her tailbone. Instead of a lesson in karma, she saw a business opportunity. She sued the restaurant for failing to clean up the slippery hazard, the one she had caused seconds earlier, and a jury actually awarded her over $113,000. If you can profit from your own temper tantrums, is there any reason left to stay calm in public? 21. Jeffrey Stambovsky once bought a beautiful Victorian manor in New York, only to discover it came with roommates he didn't invite, the spectral kind. The previous owner had spent years boasting to local newspapers about the house being haunted by ghosts from the American Revolution. However, she conveniently forgot to mention the poltergeists during the closing. When Stambovsky found out, he sued to back out of the deal. The New York Supreme Court eventually ruled that, regardless of whether ghosts exist, the house was legally haunted because of the owner's public claims. He won his deposit back, proving that failure to disclose a ghost is a legitimate legal strategy in the Empire State. 22. In a display of sheer audacity, a man in Los Angeles was leading police on a high-speed chase on a stolen motorcycle. During his attempt to evade justice, he hit a massive pothole, wiped out, and was immediately taken into custody. However, he didn't just accept his jail time. He sued the city, claiming that the poorly maintained road had interfered with his safety. Astonishingly, a jury awarded him over $1 million, essentially deciding that even fleeing criminals deserve a smooth ride. 23. Cedric Macara found himself in a precarious situation when he entered a public restroom that had no door handle. To exit, he had to stick his thumb into the hole where the handle used to be and pull. Unfortunately, someone on the other side pushed the door open at the same time, severely injuring his thumb. He sued the building's management for the dangerous lack of a handle and his inability to return to work as a result of the injury. A jury agreed that a door without a handle is a legal landmine and awarded him a staggering $3 million. That is officially the most expensive thumb in the history of human anatomy. 24. A woman in New York took distracted walking to a whole new level when she sued the city for several $1 million. While she was walking down the street, she was so engrossed in a text message that she failed to see a clearly marked, barricaded construction area and fell directly into an open manhole. She argued that the city's warnings weren't effective enough to grab the attention of someone staring at a screen. To the shock of anyone who values personal responsibility, she secured a massive settlement. Does this make you want to put your phone away? Or are you now looking for an open manhole to pay off your student loans? 25. Gregory Crosby attempted to rob a business by crawling through the air conditioning ducts, but he ended up getting stuck for several hours. When he was finally rescued by the police and the fire department, he didn't just head to jail. He headed to a lawyer's office. He sued the building owner for the physical and emotional distress of being trapped in the vent. Surprisingly, the case ended in a settlement where the owner paid Crosby to go away. Apparently, ventilation safety is a right that extends even to people trying to bypass your security system. 26. Hilda G. was walking through a grocery store when she slipped on a piece of ham that was lying on the floor. While slipping in a store is a common lawsuit, the absurdity here was the amount of effort the defense put into proving the ham hadn't been there long. Hilda argued that the store was negligent for not patrolling the deli aisle for rogue cold cuts every few minutes. The jury was convinced that the ham was a deadly hazard and awarded her a significant sum. If a single slice of lunch meat is worth thousands of dollars, maybe we should all start walking a bit more carelessly near the deli counter. 27. In one of the most awkward family legal battles ever, a man in Michigan sued his own parents for $86,000. His grievance? After he moved out, his parents decided to clean up and threw away several boxes containing his massive collection of adult entertainment magazines and films. He argued that they had no right to destroy his property, regardless of its content. Believe it or not, a federal judge ruled in his favor, agreeing that his parents were liable for the value of the collection. It's a powerful reminder that even your parents can't escape the law if they touch your stuff without a warrant. 28. In 2012, a mother in California filed a class action lawsuit against the makers of Nutella, claiming she was shocked and disappointed to learn that the chocolate hazelnut spread was high in sugar and fat. She argued that the commercials, which showed Nutella on whole wheat toast, led her to believe it was a healthy, nutritious breakfast for her children. Instead of the judge telling her to simply read the nutrition label on the back of the jar, the company settled the case for $3 million. If you could get $1 million payout for failing to read a label, would you ever read a warning hot sign again? 29. Charles Bigby was inside a telephone booth when a drunk driver veered off the road and smashed into it. The twist? Bigby saw the car coming from a long way off, but he couldn't get out because the booth door was stuck. He sued the company that manufactured the booth, arguing they were responsible for his injuries because the door's sticky latch prevented his escape. Even though the primary cause was a drunk driver, the court ruled the booth company was partially liable for his entrapment. If you were stuck in a box with a car flying at you, would you blame the driver or the guy who oiled the hinges? 30. A man in Connecticut sued his local gym after he fell off a treadmill and broke his arm. The catch? He wasn't just running. He was attempting to run backward while filming a stunt for his friends. He claimed the gym was negligent for not supervising him closely enough to stop him from doing something so obviously dangerous. A jury actually awarded him a settlement, essentially punishing the gym for not acting as his personal bodyguard. In the legal world, the more creative your mistake, the more likely you are to find a way to make someone else pay for it. 31. In Los Angeles, a man named Carl Truman was in the middle of trying to steal the hubcaps off a neighbor's car when the owner, completely unaware of the thief crouching by his wheels, hopped in and started to drive away. The car ran over Truman's hand, causing serious injury. Most people would just be glad they weren't caught and arrested, but Truman decided to double down. He sued the neighbor for medical expenses and pain and suffering. To the absolute shock of common sense everywhere, a jury awarded him $74,000. It turns out that in the world of personal injury, being in the middle of committing a crime is just a minor detail if the other guy has better insurance. 32. A man in California once sued a popular fitness center because he claimed the mirrors in the weight room were too flattering. He argued that the mirrors were slightly curved to make him look more muscular and fit than he actually was, which gave him a false sense of confidence. This deception allegedly led him to lift weights that were way too heavy for his actual physical condition, resulting in a serious back injury. Most of us would pay extra for a mirror that makes us look like a superhero, but this guy saw it as a corporate conspiracy to injure him through vanity. He managed to secure a settlement because the gym couldn't prove the mirrors weren't intentionally designed to boost egos. If your reflection looked 10% better than reality, would you sue the mirror or just take more selfies? 33. A woman in Florida once sued a major hospital because the recovery room was uncomfortably cold. She had recently undergone a minor procedure and claimed that the low temperature in the room caused her mental anguish and physical shivering that made her recovery take twice as long. She argued that the hospital was negligent for not providing enough blankets or adjusting the thermostat to her specific liking. While hospitals are notoriously chilly to keep bacteria at bay, a jury decided that the facility failed in its duty of comfort and awarded her several $1,000s. It is officially the most expensive thermostat adjustment in the history of medicine. 34. An elderly woman once sued a grocery store because she slipped on a single, solitary grape in the produce aisle. This sounds like a standard slip and fall, but the twist was the context. She was wearing high-heeled shoes and was walking through an area clearly marked with "Watch your step" signs. The defense argued that a grape is an open and obvious hazard that any reasonable person would avoid, but the jury disagreed. They decided the store was responsible for the rogue fruit and awarded her a six-figure sum for her injuries. It makes you wonder, if a single grape is worth $100,000, how much is the whole fruit salad worth in a courtroom? 35. A man in Pennsylvania sued a local park and won after walking into a park bench with a wet paint sign sitting right on top of it. He claimed the sign wasn't prominent enough before he sat down and ruined his favorite silk trousers. Instead of the judge telling him to use his eyes, the court decided the park was negligent for not using caution tape to surround the bench. He walked away with enough money to buy 100 pairs of silk pants, proving that a warning sign is only legally helpful if it's impossible to ignore. 36. A man in New Jersey once sued a movie theater because he claimed the trailers were too long. He argued that since the movie didn't start at the exact time listed on his ticket, he was being held captive for 20 minutes of advertisements he didn't agree to see. While it sounds like the ultimate first-world problem, he actually won a small settlement and forced the theater to change how they advertise their start times. 37. Driving into a flooded street during a thunderstorm seems like a great way to ruin your car, but for one woman in Florida, it was a way to make a fortune. She drove her sedan into a massive, clearly visible pool of water that had swallowed the road. When her engine died, she sued the city for not having sufficient warning signs. Despite the waist-deep water and every other driver turning around in a panic, she argued the city was responsible for her decision to keep driving. A jury awarded her over $100,000 for her trauma and the loss of her car. If you ignore the laws of physics, the legal system might still reward you with a massive check. 38. A woman in Oregon once sued a fast food chain because her value meal wasn't actually a value. She did the math while sitting in the booth and realized that buying the burger, fries, and drink individually would have cost her exactly 41 cents less than the advertised combo price. She claimed this was deceptive pricing designed to trick people who aren't good at mental math into spending more. She won the case, and the chain had to refund thousands of customers and change their menu pricing. It's a massive win for the penny pinchers of the world, proving that even a 41-cent mistake can turn into a multi-million-dollar legal disaster for a big corporation. 39. Imagine walking into a home improvement store and tripping over a wooden pallet the size of a dining table. One man did exactly that and sued for nearly $500,000. He argued that because he was distracted by products on high shelves, the giant wooden object sitting on the floor was a hidden trap. The store argued that if you can't see a 4-foot-wide pallet in a brightly lit aisle, the problem is your observation skills. However, the jury sided with the man, deciding the store was at fault for making their displays too interesting. He walked away with a massive payout, proving that being completely unobservant can be a very high-paying job. 40. Coca-Cola settled a massive lawsuit over vitamin water because people actually believed it was a healthy alternative to soda. Despite a bottle containing 8 teaspoons of sugar, the branding was so effective that consumers felt betrayed once they checked the math. In a display of peak corporate audacity, Coke's lawyers argued that no reasonable consumer could possibly think vitamin water was a healthy choice. Their defense was essentially that their customers were idiots for believing the marketing. They still settled for millions and were forced to change their labels. Are you more upset by the sugar content or the fact that the company's legal defense was literally calling you unreasonable for trusting their ads? 41. In 2011, a woman in Michigan sued a movie theater because the trailer for the film Drive led her to believe it was a high-octane racing movie like Fast and Furious. When she realized it was actually a slow-burn indie drama where Ryan Gosling mostly just stares intensely at things, she filed a lawsuit for unfair and deceptive trade practices. She argued the marketing was a blatant lie, and she deserved a refund plus damages for her wasted time. To the shock of everyone who has ever sat through a bad movie, the case moved forward, and she eventually secured a settlement. It is a win for every person who has ever felt betrayed by a misleading movie trailer. 42. A man in Florida sued a steakhouse because his 8-ounce steak weighed significantly less after being cooked. He argued that the menu price should reflect the final weight, not the raw weight, and accused the restaurant of fraud for misleading customers. Instead of the judge explaining that water evaporates when you apply heat, the man actually won a settlement. It's a legendary victory for anyone who hates paying for shrinkage in the kitchen. If you found out your dinner was 20% smaller than promised, would you call the waiter to complain or call your lawyer to cash in? 43. In a case of extreme customer entitlement, a couple sued a luxury hotel because it rained during their guaranteed sunny destination wedding. They argued that because they had purchased a premium experience package that emphasized the beautiful weather, the hotel was in breach of contract when the clouds moved in. Most people would blame the atmosphere, but this couple blamed the management. They actually won a significant refund for the entire event, effectively making the hotel pay for an act of God. It raises a serious question. If we can sue over the weather now, is there any part of nature that isn't a potential legal liability? 44. A man in a Maine shopping mall once decided that the standard way of using an escalator was far too slow, so he attempted to slide down the rubber handrail like it was a playground slide. Predictably, he lost his balance and fell nearly 30 feet to the floor below, sustaining multiple injuries. Instead of apologizing for his reckless behavior, he sued the mall for negligence. He argued that the handrails should have had anti-slide bumps to discourage people from using them as slides. The court actually sided with him, awarding him a massive settlement because the mall failed to foresee his level of poor judgment. It's a chilling reminder that in the legal world, businesses are often expected to act as babysitters for every adult who refuses to act like one. 45. A woman in Florida sued a local construction company after she walked directly into a patch of freshly poured, wet cement. The area was surrounded by orange cones and yellow tape, but she argued that because the workers didn't physically stop her or yell loud enough, they were responsible for her ruined designer shoes and the public embarrassment of being stuck in concrete. In a move that defies all logic, she won a settlement that covered her shoes, her medical checkup, and then some. It turns out that a caution sign is just a suggestion, but a massive check from a construction firm is a very real reality. 46. In 1996, a man sued the city of San Francisco after he was injured while riding a cable car. The injury occurred because he decided to jump off the car while it was still moving to chase after a hat that had blown away in the wind. He argued that the city was negligent for not having safety barriers or ejection-proof seating to prevent passengers from jumping out of a moving vehicle on a whim. A jury agreed that the city had a duty to protect people from their own impulsive decisions and awarded him a massive payout. Does this make you feel like the world is safer? Or are you just wondering why that hat was worth $1 million lawsuit? 47. In 1982, a young man named Ricky Bodine decided to trespass onto the roof of the Enterprise High School gymnasium to steal a floodlight. While he was up there, he stepped on a painted-over skylight that was never meant to support human weight. He crashed through the glass, falling nearly 30 feet onto the gym floor and sustaining permanent brain damage. Instead of a prison sentence for attempted theft, Bodine's lawyers successfully argued that the school was negligent for not making the skylight burglar-proof. The school district was forced to pay him a $260,000 settlement plus a $1,200 monthly stipend for life. Does it bother you that a criminal can retire on the taxpayer's dime just because he was bad at trespassing? 48. A man sued a sunglass company because his mirrored lenses allegedly reflected the sun into his eyes when he took them off and held them at a certain angle. He claimed the back reflection caused temporary blindness and that the company was negligent for not including a warning label about the dangers of reflections. Instead of the case being laughed out of court, he secured a settlement because the manufacturer couldn't prove they had warned him that mirrors reflect light. It's a powerful reminder that in the legal world, even the most basic laws of physics require a written disclaimer. 49. A woman in Georgia sued a convenience store after she slipped and fell on a patch of ice in the parking lot during a freak winter storm. The twist? She was the person who had just walked into the store to warn the cashier about the ice, then walked right back out onto it and fell anyway. She argued that even though she knew it was there, the store was responsible for not melting it the very second she pointed it out. Believe it or not, she won a settlement because the law often values corporate duty over looking where you are going. We've covered 49 cases where logic went to die, but before our final reveal, it's time for the final verdict. The prize for the most audacious victory on this list has to go to the fleeing motorcyclist from point 22. Suing the city because a pothole ruined your high-speed getaway is a level of entitlement that genuinely defies physics. It's the ultimate proof that in court, being a criminal doesn't mean you can't also be a millionaire. Do you agree with our pick? Or did the dog food-eating burglar deserve the win? Let us know in the comments. And now, our final entry. 50. In 1992, Stella Liebeck accidentally spilled a cup of McDonald's coffee in her lap, leading to a lawsuit that changed the world. While she is often mocked as the poster child for frivolous lawsuits, the reality was much darker. The coffee was served at nearly 190 degrees, hot enough to cause third-degree burns in less than 3 seconds. McDonald's had received over 700 reports of similar injuries but refused to lower the temperature. A jury eventually awarded her nearly $3 million to send a message to the corporation. It remains the ultimate example of a case that sounds ridiculous in a headline, but proves that sometimes the idiot is actually the victim of corporate negligence. We have journeyed through a landscape where personal accountability is optional, and a terrible decision can be a brilliant retirement plan. These stories prove that in the courtroom, logic is often the first casualty of war. Do you believe these massive payouts are a sign of a broken civilization, or just the necessary price of a fair legal system? Let us know your thoughts below. If you enjoyed this descent into the absurd, hit subscribe and join us for the next one.